Hello everybody, welcome back. Our topics today, well, this is the first of 3 videos. In this video, I'm going to be talking about work, society and globalization. Then there's going to be a photographic exercise, and then we'll have 2 more videos looking at the topic of worklessness. So work and worklessness. Defining work, we have to jump into this, and the first big question is, what is work? Scratch your heads, natter with your partner. What is work exactly? You might find different meanings of the word. Hold on to those different meanings. What words do you associate with the word work? And in pairs, come up with a short definition, maybe a sentence or 2 defining what work is. Think about that, natter with your partner, pause here. What did you come up with? Well, it really is quite fascinating, isn't it? Our term work is a complex idea that has complex nuances of meaning. It's an everyday word which we use all the time, but we use it in quite different ways. You might instinctively have thought about paid work. Okay, work as paid work, some kind of paid activity. If I'm putting a question mark there, that's not, of course, always the case. If it is paid, is it the way in which you earn a living? You know, I'm a teacher, I get paid by the federal state of Lower Saxony for my teaching, and I'm earning a living here. I'm bringing home the bacon. Actually, I'm a vegetarian, so I don't bring home much bacon, but you get the idea. I'm the breadwinner if I'm in a dual breadwinner household. So we have lots of everyday expressions to describe this act of working to earn a living. I'm in employment, I have an employer, and obviously I have an employee relationship to that employer. And I might have fantasies about a career, many of us do, in Western states, for example. But what about the housework? Before recording this video, I did the laundry. I popped the washing into the washing machine and took out last night's washing and put it in the tumble dryer. You know, does that count as me doing work? Is that also work? What about caring duties? I'm a parent, so I raise kids. Is that part of my work? It may well feel like work, and some of my teaching sometimes is a little bit like having a nice conversation with my friends. So, you know, so work isn't always feeling like hard work, is it? And what about the economy? All of these points I've mentioned have an interesting impact on the economy around me. Obviously, that's directly the case of my paid work, but my unpaid duties, for example, as a parent or as a carer for a sick family relative, also impact on the economy of my nation. So there's a whole bunch of open questions here. What is work exactly? And of course, I could make this list even longer. Let's have a look in the usual place, as always, the Oxford English Dictionary. What does it tell us? It tells us that work has a number of meanings. It also has meanings in areas like physics, which we're going to ignore here. I'm going to select a few meanings, 3 in particular I'd like to hold on to. The first meaning I'd like to present to you from the OED, activity involving mental or physical effort, done in order to achieve a result. So it's spring, it's raining, the lawn is growing happily, the grass is growing, and you look at it and you think, oh, it looks a bit shabby, and you run your lawnmower over it. You're sweating, the lawnmower is making a noise, but the result of that work is a nice, neat and tidy looking lawn. And of course, that beautiful smell of grass cuttings in the air. So that's maybe an example of meaning number 1. Meaning number 2 is that idea of paid work, a means of earning income, employment, paid employment. So that's meaning number 2. Meaning number 3, a task or tasks to be undertaken. My wife wanders in after I record this video. She asks me, oh, Magnus, how did your recording go? How's it going today? And I said, oh, I've already recorded 2 videos and I'm just about to start on my 3rd. So I've got a series of tasks I want to get done, and that's my work for the day. So 3 separate meanings showing the diversity of our understandings of work. My next question is about interdependency. And I'm trying to pick an image here, an image from systems theory that tries to represent this idea graphically. We are all dependent on one another. So we've got these mutual relationships of dependency. And that's what I want to think about now as people, as individuals in society. Who is benefiting from our work? So you're working, I'm working. With your partner, consider who benefits, who loses from our work, from the work you or others have to do. Once again, natter with your partner, press pause here. What did you come up with? It really is quite fascinating. The more you scratch your heads, the more you think about this, the more things you come up with. Obviously, the worker benefits. If it's paid employment, their family benefits too. Okay, in particular, those young children who are not yet wage earners. The employer presumably benefits. They're paying the employee to do something. Presumably they're getting something which they can make a profit out of, or which they benefit from in some way. And if they have links to other organizations, presumably those organizations are profiting as well. So obviously there's benefit on that side too. If we're making a good, a concrete good or a service, then we have a consumer. And it's quite fascinating to look at how the consumer is often the big winner. An interesting anecdote from an old guy like myself, I'm in my 40s, I can remember consumer products in the 1980s. My family at the end of the 80s bought themselves a video recorder, a VHS video recorder. Back then, still quite a new thing. And it cost us hundreds of pounds. So consumer products back then were really, really expensive. They were a big part of your disposable income. Of course, today, all of these electrical appliances are wonderfully, or maybe horribly inexpensive. I think it is horribly inexpensive if you think more about those globalization questions. So who's benefiting today? Grotesquely, the consumer is often benefiting the most. Going back to this idea of employment, paid employment, maybe the community is benefiting from what I do. I hope so. I teach in Fechter and I'm contributing to a community which is centered around educational establishments. The wider society. I'm a teacher, so I teach young people, and hopefully that will increase their happiness, increase their development, increase their earning potential later on, having that degree, which they can then use in their job. So there's a kind of social benefit for the wider society that your work is passing on. And through our individual little contributions, in terms of our little individual activities, the economy is benefiting from this, on the macro level. And of course, the economy of my country, but also the economy of our region. Germany, a European Union country, the strength of the European Union is consolidated with each one of our little minuscule activities. Again, this list is not supposed to be comprehensive. You might have other terms on this list. You might have mentioned, for example, what about the institution of the church? Is the church benefiting from my work? Absolutely. We can make this list longer. This really is in no means complete. So interdependency, we're working, but we're part of a complex network, a web of relationships with other people in our society, in our country. I want to move on. My last activity for you relates to the photographic handout that I've uploaded. I want you to think about the history of work. I'm giving you in photos a brief history of work. We're going to see some images illustrated selected historical periods of work, and it's a bit Western. It's images that come from Britain and America, countries like that. In each image, what's represented? What are we looking at here exactly? As well as showing you parts of the history of work, I'm also thinking about concepts related to work and employment. What concept related to work is each image illustrated? And some of these are concepts from economics, many of them are concepts from sociology. Try and work out exactly what concept the photo or the image is trying to represent. That's the last task. I'm going to come to a close here. Of course, as I've said, 2 more videos on worklessness, a little bit different. Hope you enjoyed this one. Thank you.